This conference will now be recorded.
I can't hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, now I can.
Perfect. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's good to be seen. Anybody got the ranch dressing? Ordered salad with no ranch dressing.
Oh,
Anyway, glad to be here.
good. All right. So we are all here then for roll call. You guys wanna- do this?
Just text me.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to bring up the individual,
Agenda.
not selecting them. I'll get to it there, I think.
Anybody have any additions or?
And move to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Why?
Okay. Consent agenda items.
Move to approve consent agenda items.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Why?
Let's see here. Okay, so then we are going to go down to feasibility report, correct? All right, Corey, you are up.
Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. Appreciate you allowing me to be here tonight. It's going to be quite familiar with the work session, my presentation here, but I'm going to kind of brief it up in some parts, and then I've made some changes to kind of, I guess, recognize that the action tonight is to present and accept that feasibility report. So got a few slides here that we're going to work through. Thought it'd be kind of nice just to cover a summary of timeline to begin. So as a council may recall, some of you early this year, we did sort of an infrastructure assessment. I had come down, toured the plants, just looked at some of the kind of, infrastructure work that had been done, street maintenance stuff. We had some televised records at that time. That kind of led into then this recommendation of looking formally at a street utility project. And council may recall the ordering of that report in May. And there's a resolution there. And that's really kind of what triggered this action. Had a work session. I thought that was a pretty beneficial meeting here last month, and we got into the weeds of this feasibility report. And tonight is really bringing that formal action forward to accept that feasibility report, that preliminary engineer's report. And then as part of that acceptance, then you'll notice in the resolution, it's really a two-part consideration that it would be to order that improvement hearing. And that's that first hearing, that required step of that chapter 429, which we'll talk a little bit more about, but that's really your structure for being able to specially assess for these types of projects. So my presentation will kind of form then that first agenda item, which would be the consideration of that resolution. So
Will you just tell me when to be turned?
that'd be great. Yeah, no worries, I will. So 2025 Project Dairy, hopefully this is becoming pretty familiar now, but really it's a 4-block improvement project focused on Ash and Broadway. And we're focusing on that corridor south of 30. So both of these projects will originate on that south-south right-of-way line of Trunk Highway 30, and then extend to the south and terminate approximately south of that 4th Street intersection. One of the things to recognize and kind of continue to track here is we as a city have been informed that MnDOT's planning an ADA project on 30, and right now that's tentatively scheduled and they're programming for 2026. So our intent would be to connect to that existing infrastructure there on 30 and then just wait and let that improvement happen with the MnDOT project. So just kind of something to track. We'll see if that stays on schedule, but that'd be for the greater length of 30, so if you don't mind. So when it comes to the improvement that we're planning here, I noticed, oh, good, you have your screens, okay. So a typical street utility project is kind of how we're framing this, and this is a underground replacement of all the utilities, really a bottom-up reconstruction. Are the slides showing on your screens here? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So starting.
Go to the,
Past the,
go into the city council or city of New Richland, go to agendas and meeting, and then do the agenda packet.
That's okay, keep going.
Okay, I will. So as we discussed, it's a sanitary sewer replacement, water main, storm sewer, those are your three utilities, followed then by your roadway. There would be an under drain system with that, and then a reconstruction of all the pavements. So the bituminous itself, aggregate base, sand base below that, new curb and gutter, concrete sidewalk. We spent some time talking at the work session that there is going to be an intent here to establish a sidewalk policy where we're looking at replacing sidewalk only on one side of a corridor. And so as we work through this project, we've identified that for Ash Street, that's pretty simple. It's on that west side today. Broadway has indications of sidewalk on both sides, and we'll show where we've made an assumption to replace that kind of continuously on the west side. And then another piece to kind of capture here with this full value is the services are replaced within the right of way. That would be from the main to the back side of the sidewalk for folks that are tracking. It's not literal that, but it's a good reference point. And then that's where the improvement would end from a standpoint of a city utility improvement. But then there's the recognition there's services beyond that. We would identify those as private, sewer and water that would then serve the home from the right of way to the home. And as part of these projects, we recognize that sometimes the condition of that isn't in good condition and the longevity that a homeowner may expect. And so with this project, we'd have an opportunity at the homeowner's discretion and approval to replace those all the way into the home. And we quite literally mean that all the way into the home. It'd be the case of connecting to the meter or clean out or some sort of floor drain inside the home, if that is an election of the homeowner. That could be done as part of the project, and oftentimes that would be able to be assessed under the property, so kind of paid off over a period of time, but capturing the opportunity to maximize that improvement, that full length then, if you don't mind. So this is a graphic here. I didn't share this last time, I don't believe, but just kind of gives some representation to when we talk about a street utility project, kind of dub this what's under my street. This is all the utility and the infrastructure we're talking about. The sanitary sewer there in green, the water main in blue, and then the storm sewer in orange. So kind of installed in that sequence, kind of lowest to highest, if you want to think of it that way, deepest to shallowest. And then the infrastructure there from the surfacing, the new street pavement, the sidewalk. This is a pretty literal representation, sidewalk on one side. And then you have those service improvements to the back side of the sidewalk, and then the rest of the way they exist. And those would be an optional replacement. So just a kind of a nice graphic here to share and kind of visualize what we're talking about. So Ash Street then, this is the first one up. So this is a 2-block section. This is the Westwood corridor. We should all be pretty familiar with this one. This is the one that serves the school. Recognizing that there's been some investment there on the school property, the parking lot here new. So we would be looking to tie into that. We'd have to reconstruct those aprons, the driveway approaches to accommodate our new road design and that curb. But for the rest of it, we would just be matching in place and protecting that. And then just kind of visually see that improvement the rest of the way there on Ash Street. Yellow is to signify the new bituminous, pink is the sidewalk, and then the utilities are kind of in that same colored graphic that we've been going with: sanitary green, water blue, storm orange. Full utility replacement as we've identified, and then recognizing here on Ash Street, we're actually going to be widening the surface of the roadway a little bit, the width of it. It's currently a kind of an awkward dimension at a 38. We'll go to an even 40, which we feel like is a good service. We talked about that a little bit before. 2 lanes, one direction each way for travel, and then 2 parking lanes at 8 feet wide. So the math kind of works nice there, and I feel like that's a pretty typical and defendable section when we're talking about trying to have that parking accommodation there along the school. So then Broadway is our second roadway. That's a 2-block section again from 30 to 4th Street. Similar situation here, yellow is the bituminous. Graphically, we have the sidewalk in pink there on the west side of the corridor. That's what we've chosen to show a continuous sidewalk, extending that then south of 4th Street to allow for that to be, connected to the existing and then continued at a part of a future project. Similar thing here, sanitary sewer, water replacements there in the green and the blue, orange. Something literal here, you can recognize we're going a little further south on past 4th Street. I think I noted that at the work session, there's a storm sewer system right there. And it felt like that was very worthwhile to catch that, a cluster of catch bases that we're grabbing. That's kind of the end of the system on Broadway. So be a good value to get that, the rest of Broadway surface drains to those catch basins. So, and then on the east side where we'd eliminate the sidewalk, a lot of those properties have catwalks or carriage walks, you might refer to them as, basically a sidewalk from the home to the curb. We would connect and make sure that that was a continuous system. Broadway, we're narrowing slightly. Broadway today is a 40-foot corridor. We would be recommending a 36. That's why you kind of see the curb taper there on the south end of the project there south of 4th, is we would be then widening back out to match the existing section. But when we go through these project, costs are a huge part. We're going to talk about that. So any ways we can kind of save on costs and just set the corridor up better for the future. 36 I think is well sufficient to provide parking on both sides, through lanes. It's a local road, dead ends on the just one more block, 2 more blocks south. So we feel like 36 is a really justifiable width and generate some cost savings. Then just put it back how it is. It'll be widening the yards a little bit too as well. So if you don't mind. So really how we got here, premise of the project, kind of the start here is the 2023 sanitary sewer. We've got the 24 data here from this summer. We have 3 more years planned in kind of this 5-year program. And the 2023 project focused on this south project corridor, Broadway and Ash. You can see there, we're a part of that televising. And really noticeable in really all of the 23 televising, but really focused here on Broadway especially. Purple is the worst condition pipe. That's extremely poor. So we're having failures like, soil visible, holes, fractured pipes, all the things you don't want to see in a system. So that's kind of really what drove us here is south of 30. All the system drains south to north. So we're just kind of taking the first 4 blocks based on what we feel is as a affordable project and trying to address some of these worst conditioned sanitary sewers. So that's really the driver. Other utility needs, water main's a 4-inch main. Talked about that at the work session. That's not a main that's recommended in today's standards for distribution main. 6 is the minimum. We're recommending an 8 here. So some deficient water main, condition. Certainly on Ash Street, you can see the deterioration of the curb. It's been overlaid into the curb, the gutter pan's missing. So a lot of defendable infrastructure needs here on this 4-block project area. Something to note and that I'm very aware of in New Richland is there's ongoing flood efforts. I mean, there's a recognition that this project isn't going to solve everything. It's only 4 blocks, and but these efforts are going to be important, and kind of collectively, hopefully, they'll obtain an improvement over time. And so the flood mitigation is a huge part. I believe there's an update at the next meeting anticipated. I noted we have still 3 more years of televising records. Next year is my understanding, it's the one kind of along the drainage ditch that goes to the plant. That's going to be a really important piece of information to gain. And then just recognizing that there's still system downstream of this 25 project and system upstream. And so whatever challenges that system's still experiencing, this project's gonna, aid in the local 4 blocks, but there's still some reliance and, susceptibility to what's downstream. So just trying to call caution to that. So we're not over-promising anything, if you don't mind. So then we get into estimated project costs, and, it's recognized that these projects are expensive. And so, as we work through this, we try to break down and identify where the costs are coming from. The roadway, as I shared at the work session, is just undeniably the greatest portion. Bituminous, aggregate, concrete, those are all expensive. We know that. So that's your highest portion of your project cost there. And then sanitary, water, and storm. Water typically kind of commands that higher price of the 3 utilities, just with all the fittings and the hydrants and the valves. Those are expensive accessories. And then sanitary and storms typically are more affordable utility. So we kind of break it out then. We have Ash Street there, and we have Broadway. So both are over $1 million, 1.2 and 1.3 about. And that brings you to that project cost of that 2.5 million for the 2025 project, those 4 blocks. So then when we think about the cost and we start to think, okay, where did the money come from? So one of the logical sources for the utilities is those enterprise funds where you're paying those rates to, so sewer and water, and there'll be a consideration of a storm utility fund here tonight later in the agenda. So those are valued to capitalize on those rates. There's an operational component to that, of course, to keep the plants running and provide that potable water to the greater community. But then there's also some value in those funds to be able to support improvements like this, a utility improvement project. Other means of sources of funding are going to be the Capital 429 special assessments. We're going to talk about that next. Bonds, recognizing that there's going to be a component here where the city is going to borrow and go into debt for this project, and then potentially some cash reserves or general funds to help kind of make this mixing pot here of dollars to make a project like this go and be affordable and feasible. So then a portion of that that project cost comes in here from the benefit, the special assessment. So the idea, really, the foundation of this special assessment comes from Chapter 429. It's a Minnesota statute that really recognizes an opportunity for a city to recoup a cost based on benefit to the adjacent properties of a project like this. And so we've got kind of a graphical representation here in the red that shows those adjacent properties. And it's quite literal, the properties that are directly adjacent to a project improvement. So that is a pretty defendable, exercise there. And then as you work through that, and once you have that roll, I'll call it those properties, then you have to equate what's that portion of cost going to be. And we spent some time at the work session talking about the policy that New Richland has in place. It's a 2002 policy, and based on just cost changes to the industry, we feel like that policy is dated. And so in the packet tonight is a consideration for a policy that we believe to be a little bit more modernized and more consistent, I would say, with current practice. And so that will be something to be considered here later tonight. But then once we have that policy in place, Chapter 429 is really the defense and the execution of that policy to the project. And so that's something we will be putting into place immediately, and it'll be a requirement to have some of that data available at the improvement hearing. So then the project schedule. So tonight we're right at the top there, October 14th, present the feasibility report or preliminary engineers report. That's what PER stands for. And then that 2-part resolution, order the improvement hearing. We found a lot of value in having an optional, non-required public meeting throughout this process. And so the first one we would propose would be a neighborhood meeting, kind of pre-improvement hearing. We would notice and provide invite to the corridor, be open to the greater public, but come in and learn more, be informed. We adjusted that date from the work session to avoid the election night, which I think is a very good thing to do. So we've moved that date. And then really, gearing up to and preparing then for that improvement hearing, the last meeting of November. That would be the night. It would be in a setting just like the council meeting, and we would conduct that improvement hearing. And then that kind of just kicks off this project delivery phase, surveying plans and specs to get us to a ability to bid the project then spring of 25 and put us in position to construct in 25. And then that completion. I do believe 1 season of construction is very doable to complete this project. And then we would consider the assessments. There's kind of 2 schools of thoughts with assessments. One is you can, assess based on an estimated cost on the front end at time of bidding in the spring, or you could do it based on the costs that were truly incurred and based on the construction condition. The scenario here I have is based on the construction conditions. So that would be end of the year, that fall time frame. What was really built was what would be assessed. And then there would be the assessment hearing. That's the second hearing that would be required, and that would then allow council to approve that role and then certify with the county by the end of the year. So in this scenario, for those folks that are assessed, the first payment that they would see would be then in 2026. So then really next steps, quite literally from that schedule, then we're really going to be framing around this improvement hearing. So kind of gearing up for this next month. project questionnaire. We found a lot of value having the example in your packet, in the PR presented at the work session, but just a bit of a fact gathering, and some of it's beneficial, some of it's not. Get probably a 50% return at best. We do it with a pre-addressed, pre-stamped envelope, try to make it really convenient, but it's just an added value to make sure that voices are heard. And then we would do the open house, which would be a voluntary thing, just really informal, come in and be informed, and then we would have the formality and an improvement hearing. There are obligations of noticing for those, mailed and publishing, got some examples there. And then just really kind of framing around the importance of having that kind of initial assessment information at the improvement hearing. So we have some preliminary numbers. So a part of that, we're already updating the special assessment tonight. We're considering that, and then just some of those other things, sidewalk policies that would come with the project. So happy to address any questions. I wasn't sure how you had that kind of structure, Tony, if you wanted to do that now or do that as part of the original, agenda item 1. I'm flexible and open to however you.
I'm wondering if Jody had something to say.
What's that?
Jody, did you have something to say? I thought I heard you say something.
No, but I do have something to say. Looking at the cost of the project, $2.5 million for about 4 blocks, in my estimate, that's what it looks like to me. With the school district owning a block and a half of that 4 blocks, we can't assess them anything. So the property owners along Ash, will get their share. I just think the $2.5 million, and it could be probably more by next year. I'm guessing it probably will be. I think that's a pretty big check for the city to write that the taxpayers probably can't cash. Although I know the streets need it.
The school district still gets assessed.
They do.
Yes.
Mhm.
They don't pay any regular property taxes, but they
Yeah,
then get assessed.
They don't, and that's one of the things about Chapter 429, that the same tax rules and laws that are maybe followed in normal taxes aren't the same in Chapter 429. So there's nothing that I've be made aware of where the school district would be exempt from taxes. We have an assessment role, of a special benefit, and I've got a handful of project experiences that I can reflect on that school districts were assessed as part of that project.
And I believe that in this project specifically, it's close to $500,000 probably or something like that.
Yeah, it's going to change a little bit depending on the policy, but to Jody's point, recognizing the length of frontage that they own on Ash Street, their assessment is size. Yes, size. Council ultimately has discretion in that, but right now, based on the role, they'll have the largest assessment without a question.
I thought you hinted at that at the workshop, that there was communication already with the school
The
district.
school is aware that they will be paying a sizable amount of that, and they are aware of it already, and I think that
Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
they are fine with it because they know the benefit of the road in front of the school. I mean, I shouldn't say that they're fine with it, but they are aware of the costs that they're gonna be incurred, and they, I think, are aware that the costs that they're gonna incur to upgrade the road in front of their area is, let's call it, a worthwhile investment.
And plus the sewer and water as well will definitely be a benefit to them. So,
Correct.
okay, I wasn't aware. I thought they didn't get any assessment. That was my big concern, but all right, you've alleviated that concern. So that's all I had. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. I don't have anything else for you.
I had a question on the 30%. I don't know if we're jumping to that. Oh, are we talking about that today, or is that what we're saying, is 30%?
We haven't set
We
that
haven't
yet.
set that yet, because that's the part of the policy that's outdated, that we're gonna review and look at changing.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, wait.
I live at 506, which is right on the edge there, right across from Heather, who lives right across the street from me, who's also right on the edge. Is there some reason that you're not going all the way to the end, since all of that sewer is?
Because of how much the project is.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
We just don't have enough money to bond for that whole project.
Okay, well, no, what I was thinking is since you're talking about taking and having a 30% assessment against the homeowner, which is me, That 2.5 million, that means that's like 800,000 overall for the assessments. And there's 22 people up there. So that's $40,000, $45,000 a piece. And there's a lot of old folks up there that I know that they wouldn't be able to handle that kind of an assessment on their properties. And and it just seems to me that by expanding it, it would take an add to the differential to lower the overall cost of the individual.
The projected project cost, if we extend it to all of that, was a little over what, $6.5, $7 million for that whole project?
To run it all the way down on both sides.
Okay.
So it would have significantly increased that. So that would have made our bond payments. So we're looking at about 100,000. Right now, we're sitting on like $130,000 bond payment every year. So this project would basically, once a bond payment dies off of $130,000, this project basically just replaces that bond payment for another 15 years. So that's what we're doing. So if we were to do that, that $130,000 bond payment now becomes like a $300,000 bond payment. So now we've got to try to figure out how to, with your tax dollars, pay a $300,000 bond payment instead of a $130,000 bond payment. So that now doubles or triples the tax that we need to bring in to cover the cost of that bond payment. So that's why we can't just go down the rest of the way.
Well, would there be a plan to do that? Because I mean, it seems kind of pointless to replace sewers in one little area. And
That's our biggest problem area.
okay.
So our hope is that by fixing the biggest problem chunk, and we should be able to fix the minor issues down the road with spot repairs to hopefully, I'm not saying this is gonna fix everything, but hopefully mitigate most of the issues we're having in that area. And then hopefully by chance, if we can free up money in other areas, we'd be able to extend that project at a later date. So it's hopefully thinking ahead, hopefully. It's just that we don't have money to do. In a perfect world, we would love to just do both sections all the way down and we get one time to be done. We just don't have the finances available to do that.
I think you have to look ahead where how much of the city hasn't been televised. Down the road where Tony and I live on the graph, it's purple. So, I mean, I think there's gonna be plenty of other spots in town you're gonna have to worry about though too. I mean, I definitely see the point, but I'm afraid to see what happens in the next couple of years when the Dell gets televised and what other projects we're gonna have to figure out.
The problem is with the school side of it, that road is so in disrepair right now that we have to do something, and it's best while we tear it up anyway to fix the infrastructure underneath in that section. So that's kind of the plan, but hopefully we can plan for future things as we keep televising, so we don't have everything hit all in a short amount of time.
Yeah, or as we shared at the work session too, right, is being able to have that full picture perspective, so you're not investing in expensive road repairs when your utilities are failed below, you know, and we have examples of that south of 30 here, you know, where Moore Street and Broadway are actually pretty good roadway wise, but the utilities are some of the worst in the city. So just making sure that there's good investment all around, underground and above ground, and that televising is just the way where it starts. So great to be doing that, and to your point, we just need to get it to understand it. We're in the process. Well, good. I'm happy. I'm staying the whole meeting. So as we work through it, I'm available. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Corey.
Okay.
So it's up to you. I don't know if you want to just jump around and handle his stuff, or if you just want to go down the list. It doesn't really matter to me.
For the resolutions?
Yeah, the resolution for 2420 is his resolution for the feasibility report and calling on the hearing.
Yeah, I just got, do I need to read it word for word?
No, you don't need to read anything. I mean, it's just.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 24-20, which is resolution receiving the feasibility report and calling for a hearing on approval.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So then we got ordinance 2403, stormwater ordinance.
Yep,
First
so,
reading.
let me.
Does that stormwater ordinance reference what Brandy was talking about?
No. The stormwater ordinance, that's adding the.
Storm
To adding the
sewer.
sewer fee, the storm
Storm
water, storm sewer fee.
So this is just establishing a storm sewer utility. So this is basically what we had talked about.
The ditch county.
Yep, the storm sewer utility. So this would be just establishing a new storm sewer utility, charging based off of the size of the parcel. So basically less than 0.9 acre or greater than an acre. And then small commercial, medium commercial, large commercial, and that would be established by the city.
Fee schedule?
Thank you, city fee schedule. So this is just the first reading, so you don't have to read it, but the first reading will be as presented. And then calling for a public hearing on November 12th, 2024 at 6:35 p.m.
We're not doing anything with this tonight.
This is
You're
just
giving it to us.
first reading, calling for a public hearing. This will be published in the paper that there will be a public hearing on
November 2nd,
November
November
12th,
12th.
2024 at 6:35 p.m.
And I'm just thinking that when we said we referenced the fee schedule, that it will make more sense for a resident when they see this and the fee schedule together on what they might end up paying.
Yeah, the council will have to adopt the fee schedule
Correct.
whenever they choose to decide whatever that fee schedule is going to be.
And that's just like what we do for,
Ambulance billing, water
Yeah,
fees,
that's
sewer
what I was
fees,
saying. Yep,
yeah,
okay.
whatever.
Cool.
All right.
So are we going?
There's no adoption, just.
This
make a
is just
motion-
adopting the ordinance for the storms. This is
Okay.
not setting fees or anything like that.
No, so.
I'm not anticipating you guys to set
Is it-
fees
is it
to
gonna be two
establish
separate
until
mo-
January 1st.
Two separate motions?
No,
or
one
just
motion will do both.
Anybody wanna-
I move to adopt ordinance 24-03.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do you want me to skip the third one here, or do you want me to keep going?
We can just keep going
Okay.
through.
All right, I'm gonna do, so ordinance 24-4, cannabis ordinance, first reading.
Okay, so these are all related to the cannabis legislation for the state of Minnesota. These are zoning regulations. These are zoning regulations to change our zoning districts to allow for the cannabis regulations that are coming from the state of Minnesota based on the Office of Cannabis Management or whatever. So basically what these ordinances are doing is basically what we're doing is modifying our planning and zoning to allow for lower potency hemp edible sales as an accessory to retail sales in C1. So what this motion will do is this is the first reading, and it'll refer it to planning and zoning for review and set a second reading and public hearing for November 12th at 6:35 p.m.
Just gonna ask.
And that can be done in a single motion.
And if they don't pass or get adopted, I've been asked to ask that.
What was that?
If they don't get passed or as far as this. set
Well,
goes,
right now we're on a
what's-
moratorium until January 1st, but this will basically set us up for January 1st. So. But planning and zoning's got to review it and then send it back to council, say that yes, they reviewed it, whatever, it's good to go, so.
Do we have a motion? Okay.
We're just getting these out there to be able to be read.
It has to be ready for January 1st.
But I mean, tonight we're just
This is
saying
the
we
first
want to
reading,
have
this is
them
the
ready
first
for-
reading, send it to planning and zoning for review, and then it's got to go to a public hearing. Before it can be approved,
And that would all have to be done before January 1st.
yes. Well, it has to be approved and then it has to be basically wait for 30 days before it can go into effect.
We're
So
on the
December
gun. We're
1st.
on the gun almost.
Yep. Mhm.
I'll make a motion to do exactly that.
Exactly what?
To have these three ordinances brought together.
Well, let's do them one at a time, please.
You want one at a time?
Yeah.
That'd be
Oh,
24.
wait a second.
No, we're just doing 24.
The first one is the actual cannabis ordinance. I'm sorry, I went forward. The first one is actually the cannabis ordinance,
Is that 24?
Dash
24-4. So that just mirrors the state law.
I'm just trying to figure that out.
Yeah. So it just basically, it defines what the cannabis uses, the adult use cannabis, what they all are, and then what the uses are, what the paraphernalia are, what the product is, what the hemp concentrate is, basically what all of the things are, what the low potency means and all that kind of stuff, so that we can identify those things in our planning and zoning.
What I've been hearing on the news is the state is in such disarray on this. They can't even keep a director. Yeah,
Yeah, you're
You're
right, Jody.
correct.
You're right, Jody, and stuff will probably change before January 1st, but if it doesn't, we have to be ready to go.
I understand. I wish we didn't have to be ready.
I don't disagree with you.
I'm trying to think of the right wording to put for this.
So this part I understand, this is definitely it's not even a necessary evil, it's just putting in the definition and stuff like that, which that we would need in order to take any action, not action again. So this part, I understand needs to get passed, but I think maybe we're on the same page of the
Yes,
other stuff,
that's
like
okay.
I'm not in favor of
It
any
needs to be
of
brought
other
forward so that we can not say adopt it, but have it in place so that we can have a public hearing.
Right, but here's the problem. If the state, the businesses licenses are being issued by the state. If they apply for a license and they get one through the state and we don't have the things in effect and we don't have the stuff, we can get sued as a city because we don't have those things in place.
So it's not like local liquor license. I mean, they're getting their stuff through the state and we're just kind of along
Yeah.
for the ride.
Yes.
Cool.
So if we don't have the stuff in place, then it's our liability that we don't have the stuff in place. So,
I'm just trying to think how to word that though.
well, the ordinance one, the cannabis
The
ordinance,
can,
it's just a first reading and set for public hearing on November 12th.
That's what I'll say then. I'll make a motion for the first reading and set for a public meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
I,
Okay. So now we're down
So
to
now we're to 2405.
ordinance 2405.
Yeah, so that is the one to lower potency hemp sales in addition to retail sales. So that is basically to allow liquor stores and things like that to sell this in relation to their other stuff.
I noticed right initially there, and maybe I'm getting into the weeds now already, but C1 commercial district, that is just the downtown area, correct?
Yep,
Mhm.
yes,
It couldn't be somebody on the edge of town or?
No.
Just right here.
yes.
And is that far enough away from the school?
Well, there's certain,
Certain.
yeah, I mean, it just depends.
Okay.
It depends, yeah. There's other rules and regulations that we have into our stuff.
But that's another time we figure that out. Okay.
So planning and zoning will review this on October 7th then at 6:30?
17th
17th.
this Thursday.
And then back to us on November 12th.
Mhm.
Okay.
If you send it to them with a motion.
Does anybody,
I'll make a motion to send ordinance number 2405 to the zoning committee for next meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I,
All right.
2406 is the same thing, except it deals with the C3 highway commercial district, which would be like the Willows and
So out on the,
Casey's and that kind of stuff.
so C3 is the, okay, oh, good, sir.
At 2406?
24-06.
I don't need to
Motion to-
be, because they're saying, they're both in commercial, there's one zoning thing, it says.
It's just a different district.
Different.
It's a
yeah.
different.
They're the same type of zoning, it's just a different district.
Where do we see the district?
C3 is highway commercial.
I don't see a C3 on that 06.
It says 24-06 amendment to C3 highway commercial.
C3.
Oh, up there. Because it says C1 down here. further in the,
Halfway down the page on the resolution.
up on 2406, number 1, says C1. Is that a mistake?
What are you seeing?
On ordinance 2406, it says C3 up on the top, commercial district C3, but the number 1 underneath whereas is commercial district C1.
Oh, in the actual paperwork?
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably something, I didn't even review that because our attorney did that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just a mistake.
Okay, that's
I'll
fine.
make sure it's
Correct
correct.
it.
And now this has to go to the zoning.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the ordinance number 2406 gets sent to the zoning commission on this next Thursday.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last one is the amendment to industrial zone to allow the manufacturer and retail sales.
I'll make a motion that ordinance number 2407 gets sent to the zoning commission also on Thursday.
A second.
Is this a necessary evil then too?
Mhm.
Is it? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Department reports? Ambulance?
They had SEVO training. 2 first responders need a refresher, Jordan and Jeff. Jordan will start this, doing an online or allied medical. Jeff has not let her know if he wants to do this. Jordan, you already approved Jordan apparently.
That was the last time I remember that.
Yeah.
There's a cancer benefit for Jennifer this weekend.
I don't think she's asking for anything. was she?
No,
Nope, just I
just a
think,
notification for you guys if you're able to attend. She said the mock crash went really well. There's some good pictures on the Facebook.
Mhm.
We've been on standby for football games. Actually had to be used a few times. Planning the Halloween trick or treat at the park. That's kind of all she's got.
I'll make a motion to accept the ambulance report.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fire department?
1 fire call, 1 medical call, 2 calls total. Training was a walkthrough of Cargill and CFS, and that's where they just go through and learn where all the stuff is at, and it helps them with their OSHA requirements of getting their insurance taken care of. They make you go up the ladder at Cargill this year, or the outside?
I wasn't able to attend.
Oh,
I made the meeting, not the training. I move to accept the fire department report.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cindy?
We had 127 calls for service for the month of September, totaling 1,780 for the year. I completed my EMR refresher, squad maintenance. So 260 had an oil change. The 270, which is the black squad, that one is going to need new tires, most likely before it snows and gets gross and icky Minnesota weather. So, based off of this spring's, I believe it was February, was $1,160 for 4 tires plus all the labor and all that. So I'm asking for 200 only because who knows about inflation. So I have not gotten a quote yet from New Richland Auto, which is who we got the white squad tires from. But I can do that if you'd like me to. But I'm asking for 2,000 for a new set. And then the TASER contract was signed and the first payment should be somewhere between January 1st and January 15th. I'm gonna be honest, I did not go back and look at the contract, I just know it's in January, so. Should be in there. And that's all I have.
Denise, Jody here. I'd really, really like to thank you. Barkley and I'd like to thank you so much for your quick response last Thursday and hanging out with us until the ambulance rig got there. It really means a lot. You're very professional, and I really, really appreciate all the help that you gave to me there and got me some medical attention. So again, very nice job. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to sit there with you and good to see that you're doing good and that
Feeling a lot
shiner
better.
on.
Thank you.
Good.
It was a lot more complications than I expected, but we'll fight through it somehow. Again, thank you.
Yeah.
We wish you were here, but you'll be back sooner than later.
As far as the tires go.
With that, I'd like to make a motion. We approve the police report.
Do they still work off state bid on stuff like that? Or
Yeah, we'll get the best price, but, Jody went through the police report, but before we do that, I need a motion for the tires first.
Does anybody want to make?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor for the $2,000 for the tires?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now you want to approve the police
Yes, I'd
report?
like to move to approve the police report.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. New business, amend special assessment policy?
Yes, that's my question.
Well, yep, you wanted to talk about it, so I will let you have the floor.
Yeah, so I just was reviewing, the introduction, basically the assessment report that you had on your the amendment. And after reading through it, and I kind of went online and just kind of researched a typical, how you guys go about, or how it's about to determine the percentage that the property owners, are in charge of. And I just feel like 30% is fairly high, and I understand that you guys are, splitting it up per footage of, property front along that road. But, some of the properties aren't as valued the same, so the property values, there's one house that it could be way more, I don't know, there's a $500,000 property and a $100,000 property, just for an example, but they're both paying the same. I understand that they're both getting the same. I just feel like when you're applying this, because they're supposed to get some kind of refund if they were to sell or to get it back. But I don't see that possible for people, with a lesser value property. I just feel like 30% is a lot for everyone on that road. Because there are a lot of people that the houses aren't valued as the same.
That's a pretty industry standard, right?
Yeah, it is. I would say typically assessments there's geared around a percentage of the improvement, and there's oftentimes distinction between sewer and water. In those cases, it's very literal to getting improvement via service. That's sort of how this is framed. So I'd be buy it per parcel, and then street it's not uncommon that it's based on a frontage. And so there are different means of calculating assessments. Some are based on, a per parcel improvement, where you kind of collectively total all these, but I'm not aware of a policy that has distinction between property value. The idea is that the improvement is improving based on frontage, that infrastructure that exists there. And I guess by rights, that's a consistency regardless of kind of how the property is valued or upkept or developed. The adjusted kind of is also intended to have some distinction between maybe a greater property, in size, versus a property that's, maybe smaller in size. So there's obviously going to be a distinction based on that footage calculation. But it's a fair point that you're bringing up, but I'm not aware of any policy that is able to kind of guide and speak to that, where there's some sort of idea of, equitability between the value of a property.
Yeah, there's no policy. I was just researching. I found a research paper from the House of Representatives, and they just basically like stated out that the assessment, typically is uniformly applied on the same class of property. So
Yeah.
I understand that they're all getting the same thing, and it is being based on footage, and to me, that's fair. But also, maybe I'm thinking if it's not 30%, it would maybe not be so daunting on some people that have smaller property or market values on their home. That's a lot of money. That's just kind of what I'm thinking.
You're aware that will go on their taxes and they get paid over 15 years.
I understand, yeah, 100%, like I get it, but it's still pretty scary. I'm thinking when people come in here, they're gonna see this number and they're gonna be like, wait a second. I'm not getting a sidewalk on my street, on my side, but they are, and why
Well,
am
it could
I?
be.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I don't know. I was thinking of
Here,
people who.
We gotta
Yeah,
worry
I
about
mean-
the rest of the town getting assessed 70%. I'm like, why am I paying for the rest when it's not my road? Could be
I'm not, yeah, I'm not
that
getting,
we
I'm not,
gotta fight
I'm not
too.
getting the new road when
I'm
I
not
should
getting-
be,
yeah.
but I'm gonna pay for it.
In the future, we
You know,
will be, but.
You can still drive on that road that they're fixing. That's the point too.
Well, that's everybody.
Right, I
It's
know.
it's no different,
That's my point.
it's no different than streetlights. Everybody takes advantage of that.
I mean, I talked to the group of administrators that I go with on a regular basis, and they all said that this is the policy that they use.
They use a 30%?
This is their basic.
Well, now thinking outside of the box, when she's talking about here, say somebody had a $500,000 house here and somebody had a $150,000 house here, and just throwing something out there to think on. Say we have a scale. If it's under 100,000, that 30% is less. If it goes up to 250,000, it's a little bit more. If it's up to 500,000, then it's the 30%. You know what I'm saying? A walking scale all the way up. I'm just throwing it out there.
Are we tiptoeing on the point of socialism, then we're
Yeah, I
punishing
feel
people
like-
for
Correct.
making more
I know.
money?
Not only that, but
That's why I'm throwing it
how
out
much
there.
staff time are we gonna put on
Correct.
that?
I know.
You know?
That's what I'm saying.
And so I just don't feel that there's a,
Value to it.
I didn't bring it.
no, I get it. I understand it. I do completely. I just, yeah,
Yeah, I remember
didn't
I had
bring it
to
up.
pay a amount on my road. when
no,
Yeah.
I'm grateful for you bringing it up, because I never even thought about that. But
I could see the argument if you would get assessed, if we were doing like yours and you live on a corner and you're doing both roads and you're gonna get double whammied, I mean, that I could see
Well, it's scary.
debating on.
Then let's throw out,
How do you
what's the
assess
dollar
someone
amount,
like
the
that?
average on a frontage of that road for the 30%? What's the dollar amount? You got a quick math?
no, I wouldn't have any idea. Wouldn't have any
Corey?
idea.
What's the,
Well, I would have another question based on your comment. When you talk about being based on frontage, the way your map is set up, my house would sit on like here, and you're only gonna fix the street up to about there. The sidewalk runs from here all the way up to here, and apparently the sidewalk's gonna stop right about in here somewhere. Am I gonna be assessed only on this frontage, or
Just the repairable.
the entire 200 feet frontage?
Just the repairable.
Just the
frontage,
repair.
yeah.
So
Just
that
part
in
of
the
it.
policy, there's distinction between corner lots between short and long side. The policy that's being considered tonight is, the short side is the non-accessible side, the long side is. And I'm familiar with your property, your long side abuts Broadway.
Yep.
Um,
No, both sides.
Yeah, but the long side is on Broadway, so that would be the accessible side. And we are anticipating making a recommendation that we would assess you for the length of your property on Broadway that's being approved. Since your long side's on Broadway, let's just say hypothetically we're replacing half of it, you'd be assessed half of that way.
Okay.
So you're not the only one in that case, the property that behind you on Ash Street's similar, but you have to kind of
Yeah.
make it so that there's a defense to it, and we felt like that's what we would be recommending.
Yeah, well, no, and Heather's got the same situation.
She does, yeah.
Because They're right across the street, and you're basically doing half of her project.
Yeah, correct. So it's a little tricky, and you try to make, good decisions on where the limits of your property are, and then based on that, you have to make good decisions on how you assess that. In your case, that's what the recommendation would
So Corey, can you just throw a ballpark figure out what an average household on that street would have for a 30% assessment of
It's on the
that road to
graph.
be fixed?
It's all
It's
in
in the graph.
length.
be. Yeah, I guess if that's the direction of the council, I made some calculations.
I would have to refer that to Corey.
In preparation for this.
I would assume that it would be built.
Wasn't there a graph in your packet of stuff that was kind of,
I didn't provide this information in any packet yet. This is.
there was numbers given to people.
Well, yeah, I mean,
On the
we-
slide when we were.
He can't provide that until you
It's in
guys
here
are
too.
deciding what the policy is gonna be for.
Yeah,
we
so
have
I,
the cost.
yeah, I would, I think what's important is, and when you're looking at this, we know for sure that the current assessment at a 50% recommendation is what we believe to not be, defendable, right? And so while we're working at a policy that has some precedence and some acceptance within the industry, local communities, this is the policy from Janesville. This policy tonight before you is the exact policy of Janesville. Your city attorney is the city attorney in Janesville. They did a project just in 2022. So there's some, I think there's some kind of industry support to a policy that you're considering. What I think is important is you have a policy that guides the framework of how you're gonna gear your special assessment application, that chapter 429. But then please recognize that as a council, you have any opportunity to make decisions based on special circumstances. And so as you work through and I prepare a role and we evaluate that and we go through the assessment hearing and you hear feedback from the community, we're gonna hear it all the way through the process, but really that's the feedback that will then kind of, I guess, let council know where's your comfort in adopting that final role. So the policy doesn't, it's a framework, it's a guidance, it's a place to start and try to have some consistency, but recognize there's council ultimately holds that authority to set those assessments. And that's the idea. So I would caution away from trying to pinpoint a dollar amount. And to your, I wanted to clarify, like when you read class in that literature there, they're really recognizing like class in the sense of single family home, commercial, rental. There's some distinction in the industry based on classes of property based on use. And so I view that more in that case than what you may think of like a class of like a value in a homes or a property. So just a little distinction that way. I just want to clarify, but I would caution about trying to target a dollar amount, target more of a foundation, a pillars, so to speak, where we can apply, and then you can start to, weigh in if there's some things that are an outlier or maybe a misrepresentation. That's what's important.
Corey, on the corner home on Ash, on the very south edge,
Correct.
there's a length and then there's just a kind of corner section on the 4th Street side.
Yes.
Now, if I'm reading this assessment policy correctly, he would be billed for the length side and then not that short piece.
Yeah, so the policy that you have before you on corner lots, the way that this reads is, so first off, if there's any sewer or water service, it's triggered regardless of the short or the long side. So that part doesn't matter. They would get a sewer or water service if they're getting it as part of the project, regardless of the side. So that's important. Those are per parcel, so that makes sense. It's defendable. When it comes to the frontage piece, though, the way that this policy reads is the short side's ignored. So the short side improvement's not assessed. It's the long side improvement. So we have a situation where the corner properties on the south side of 4th, the long sides are on Ash and Broadway. Yours is exactly that. So we would be assessing based on that improvement, but in this case, it'd just be the length of that long side that's
They won't
in
get
the
double
project
taxed.
area.
Yeah.
So it's the long side that's getting assessed. That's for the street, that's for the frontage piece of it. So.
Yeah, I completely understand not going towards like market value or getting dirty with what's more valuable or what people think. I just only brought that up because I think that 30% is a hefty percentage for someone living on that street to come in and see, but then we're also asking to bring in this stormwater fund where we'll be tapping more money onto their bills. So they're kind of double paying because we were talking about applying that money to this project. So I just feel people
We're not gonna
really
apply any of
not
that money
applying
towards
that.
this project.
Not this project?
This project won't, no,
It won't
because
be,
we're already gonna be 30,000 underfunded in that storm sewer project.
That fund for the stormwater was for when the county
Basically
came
the
asking for the
30,000
money
ditch
for the ditch
projects.
projects.
We're
That's
already
where
gonna be underfunded, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be for basically going forward,
okay.
so,
Okay.
yeah.
In past, when we've done road things, has it always been 30% or has it,
It all just depends on what the road project has been. I think, and I don't wanna speak out, but I wanna say it was either 25 or 30% on Third Street. But I can't remember off the top of my head.
I want to say it was 25, that when we talked at the work session.
That's what I thought.
I feel like
So,
Yeah, that's why when I saw 30, I was like, wait a second, I thought we said 25.
but I just don't know. We also have to pay out bills too. So, I mean, I think that, and we can always adjust this right up until the assessment, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So, I mean,
to kind of give an example, if the Third Street project, what date was that about, 2014 or somewhere in there? So 10 years ago, your policy is 2002 right now, that's a 50% recommendation. So regardless of how that assessed, whether it's 25 or 30, you didn't follow the policy there. So I think that's really what's important, is the current policy is dated, this gives some structure. And
the thing is if we adopt it as presented tonight, we can give Corey enough stuff to create some figures
Good
for this
numbers.
open house hearing, to at least give us some numbers to work with. To have some presentation to at least give some people to yell at us about, so that we can kind of go into figuring out where we need to be. Because even at 25%, even at 15%, even at 10%, people are gonna be mad. Doesn't matter where we start.
Yeah.
So, but this is the last policy that Janesville went when they did their last street project. This is the policy that they used.
We just gotta keep it positive and get the benefit of what they're gonna get out of it.
Yeah, and we can always go down. I mean, if we decide that, and we can talk about this further down when we go through these next few new business items. We may come out after some of these study things that we may be able to go down to a smaller percentage.
I wasn't happy with what I got, but now that I've got nice new street in front of me after 5 years, I'm okay with what it was. In the long run. There's certain things I'd say I would
Yeah,
have done different.
there's some people that were very adamant about not having a sidewalk in front of their house when we did that Third Street project that I think are okay with the sidewalk in front of their house now. So,
It's just a new piece and it's gonna cost money.
So,
what type of motion do you need for this?
if you wish to amend this policy to this policy, we should have a motion doing so that we can give Corey something to work with for this new hearing.
And you said that can be changed in the future.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
can be changed next meeting if you want.
I'm just looking to see what it is here now. Okay, there it is. I make a motion that we adopt the special assessment policy.
Second.
All in favor?
You turned Jody off.
I had muted Jody, so I apologize.
I got an alarm going off, so I vote aye.
All right. Enterprise fund study?
So yeah, so when I got our enterprise fund study back from Advil, they wanted $16,000 to do this enterprise fund study. And then as I started talking over some stuff and looking at stuff a little closer, I know Wayne always talked good about David Drown and Shannon Sweeney. And so I reached out to him and I was kind of blown away that he would do it for $2,500. And then talking to him even a little further, he said that if we would use them for our municipal advisor for the bonds for this upcoming street project, that he would cut that in half to do this rate study. So basically, he would do a 5 to 10 year rate study on all of our utilities, our water, sewer, and our newly approved storm sewer, should that all work out. But this is what he did for the city of Minnetrista. And basically, he will go through and look at all of our current water and sewer rates and what we have for spending, and what we have coming in, and what we have for anticipated upgrades for wells or anything like that, and come through and give us a cost projection for 5 to 10 years of what our rates need to be. And then he would also work with Corey on our 2025 street project to work in some expenses on that as well, to try to figure out how we may be able to pay cash instead of bonding for some of that bill, to try to decrease some of our long-term debt. So we wouldn't have to maybe long-term some of that expense, instead of, handcuffing us for 15 years, maybe it's only 10, to kind of cost some of that down. So I think it's just a really good idea to have this done. So I would maybe hope the council would be interested in partnering with Shannon to do some work. Corey's here, he can maybe talk to Shannon, but he's worked with Shannon on some projects and some good things to say about Shannon, so.
I have nothing bad to say about Shannon. He's pretty renowned in the industry. I've worked with him pretty much exclusively on all my communities. I shared with Tony that I think the one thing I appreciate probably most about David John, but Shannon especially, is he's very good about scaling to the community. So he's not one that's going to come in and make a recommendation for a 5,000 community to New Richland. Yeah, I've worked with him in Allendale and Geneva here, and Hollandale, and so he's very mindful about what a community is based on size and affordability, and so he has a good way of being a value to that, and I think it's a real huge asset here on the utility rate. As we're talking about these greater infrastructure needs, whether it's extension of Broadway Nash, whether it's some of the concerns of the controls at the water treatment plant, or whatever it is, the screen at the wastewater treatment plant, like this is how you start to build some of that ability to afford these things and try to do them at a pace and a control that you have. And these utility rates are a big part when it comes to these enterprise funds, bringing that cost down. So maybe you can apply assessments to the street part and bring that overall project cost down. So Shannon will have that good, greater vision and perspective. And I think all of this right now is a need, and to have some sense of direction and just plan, I think is a really positive for the city. So I have nothing but positive about the timing and the individual you're working with.
I was just gonna say the coordination with the plans that we have in the future for this.
Yeah, and Wayne, when Wayne was here, he worked with Shannon a lot on a lot of different things, and had some really good
And then the
stuff.
price difference.
Yeah, I mean,
And the discount.
yeah, it's half price if he does the bond stuff, and I know that the last time the city bonded, I'm pretty sure that they worked with David Drown for that stuff too.
Not the very last one.
Oh, that was with Jennifer?
Yeah, but all the ones before, was the very last project.
Okay.
The city chose not to.
Okay, but yeah, Shannon's great, and he's actually been helping me out with a few other things too. So I mean, I think it's a great. I think it'll help this street project move along much smoother if we have some guidance from him. So
I move that we contract with David Drown and Associates to conduct a utility rate study and utilize them to advise on our municipal bond process.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Safety Committee, Regional Safety Group.
all right, so we are required by law to have a regional safety group or a safety committee in-house. We've kind of always done it in-house. The last couple of years in our audit by League of Minnesota Cities, we kind of talked about this regional safety group, and I've always kind of wanted to be a part of it because there's some things that we do miss here and there. There's never been one available. I just got a invitation to be a part of one from our League of Minnesota Cities coordinator. I did put this in front of you. So basically, it is a regional group, so that would be with Lake Crystal, Mapleton, Wells, and Amboy. It is, the cost of the group is, the cost of the program is almost $22,000 a year, but League of Minnesota Cities, offsets 12,000 of that, and then the rest of the program is split between the cities, so it's about $2,000 for our city to do that. But if we split the cost between each department, it's only about $328 per year for the departments. That does get us to this NeoGov online training system and the SDS Access online safety data management system, which would be huge for the maintenance department, the fire department, especially those two departments is huge. It does handle all of the mandatory OSHA trainings, and then it also does give some specialty trainings to the maintenance department and a few of the other departments that are required by law every year. And then it satisfies our League of Minnesota Cities Safety Committee training for our liability training. So I would really appreciate it if the council would approve that request.
That hasn't figured into the budget yet this year, huh?
We can find $327.60 through the operating funds of each department that it's not budgeted for, but there's enough of I don't see that being an issue.
I'll make a motion that we join that group for the safety routine. And that's gonna be annual for, I
Yeah,
shouldn't say
you know,
forever.
yeah, well, it'll be,
Foreseeable future.
yeah, well, yeah, and it'll just be budgeted in from here on out.
Giving her a chance a second.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. 2025 street project preliminary engineering payment.
All right, so this is the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously, we will have some upfront costs for Corey and a few of the other things that are going on for the 2025 street project, and obviously, we are not gonna see some money for those costs until we do ultimately bond for that project. So we do need to pay for some of that stuff upfront. I have spoken with Shannon and a few other places. We do recover some of that, or we do recover almost all of those costs exclusively at the bonding cost. We just need to keep track of those costs separately for the time. So I would make a recommendation to the council. We have a little over $215,000 in capital reserves for street funding. So I would make a recommendation to the council that we pay for any associated costs for the 2025 street project out of the capital fund reserves for street projects. Keep track of those funds once the budget, or once the bonding funds come through for the street project, that we repay those funds with the bonding funds. But I do need approval for that.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Can we write them an IOU?
Yeah, I wish.
All in favor?
I'll say aye.
Okay. All right. 2025 budget discussions. anything?
I don't know if you wanted to talk about anything tonight. I know it's kind of been a lot of stuff on the budget or tonight. I will just share with you at the administrators meeting that I went to the other day, all of the administrators that I'm with, they're all settling between 11 and 13% this year.
Ooh.
So, the majority of that increase was due to law enforcement wages within their organizations.
Now it's towns our size or bigger, smaller?
Most of them are 4,000 to 8,000 people, but of the 11 to 13%, about 6 to 8% of their budgets were law enforcement wages that were pushing up their budgets. So, yeah. We did talk extensively in that group about ambulance, because I know we're gonna talk about ambulance. And 3 of the groups said, get rid of expertise billing, that's our problem.
Because they've had them and they had problems with
And
it?
they got rid of them. And they did give me a new group to look into. I do have Sarah looking into getting rates from surrounding agencies of what they're charging for billables. And then I also have had her do one other thing, and I can't remember what I was asking her to do. I think I asked her to get rates from other services around us and then who they were having doing their billing. So I'm waiting for that back from her. But yes, I heard from basically every everybody in my group that has an ambulance service that I talked to said that when that had been using Expertise left them because they are having the same problem that we were having, recovering revenue.
But they went to somebody else and didn't bring it back in-house? Or did-
Correct, nobody's in-house.
Nobody's in-house.
Nobody brought it back in-house that took it out of house. No. So I will continue to work on that ambulance revenue piece, because I think that is a big deal, but I don't think we need to solve it with lowering our revenue on the ambulance side. I think we just need to increase our rates and find a different person to collect our money. And I think we can fix that problem. So I'll continue to work on that.
Do you have any idea what percentage of the budget that would increase?
What that would increase, we're not gonna fix nothing.
It's gonna be a cut, just.
No, I think the problem is if we can't find that revenue,
Oh, okay, that's my
we
point.
can't.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. We're not gonna save anything, we just ain't gonna grade.
We gotta keep it.
Gotcha. All right,
That's the problem.
sounds good point.
Other question I have, insurance, did that come back? Do we know what percentage?
Today I got from IntelliSense, I got a spreadsheet to request the people who are on insurance to send them dates of birth, all that good stuff, to find out what the rates are for 2025. So I will send that to them tomorrow, hopefully, and then I should have rates next week with any luck at all. Yes. So, yeah.
All right. Miscellaneous, let's see. Well,
We will not do a work study because Joe Lewis will be here in person to present the hydrology study and answer all of your wonderful questions that you may have for him, because Jason has a bunch. So, and I didn't even want to try to respond to
I
some of the
understand
questions.
that.
So,
Cause it took me a while to write them.
yeah, but it should be a good, he should be able to answer most of your questions, and it is a good presentation, so, but he'll be able to talk you through it at least and show you what's going on. And there is a grant open right now to help, I can tell you that though. There's a DNR grant coming up to, I did tell you that, but I'll make it public.
Yeah.
There's a DNR grant to, for flood mitigation. And there's about $20,000 to do some additional work on our hydrology study. And the commissioners meeting the other day, the commissioners pledged to spend up to $30,000 to help us with some needed work on the end of our study to shore that up. So with that being said, I am going to apply for a grant on our study to help shore some of that up as well. I think that closes the end of October here. So I'm gonna try to get that done this week.
that's a separate one
Yeah,
that you're doing?
it's to work, it's for the same type of work that they're gonna do, but if I figure if we can get money, we can make that 30,000 go a little farther, so. I'll try to get that done.
Okay. All right. Administrators report?
Now that we got the workers' comp stuff done, the property and casualty policy came in, so I'm finishing that up. Working on the enterprise budgets right now. Insurance claim for the flooding stuff's been all submitted, that's all done. Performance reviews for the assistant clerk police officer were done. I've been working with Corey on the street improvement stuff, working on the storm sewer fund and storm sewer ordinances. Started completing work, finishing touches on the American Legal Publishing Ordinance recodification stuff. I got one final letter to complete with them so that they can start working on that process. Working with David Drown on the utility study stuff. Talk about ambulance billing. One birthday, Laura Beckman on the 18th from the ambulance, and Jordan Allen will be with I believe he's with the ambulance for 3 years, 15th of October.
Move to accept the city administrator's report.
All in favor?
All right.
Anybody have any comments from the council?
Not on.
For me? Nothing for me?
Would we want to discuss Tony's insurance?
We can.
Well, I
I
think
think
we should throw it out there and get people's ideas on it.
Okay.
As far as what part, because you're still
I'm
waiting
in
on.
favor, I'm in favor of it if we can find the money in the budget. I want to just say that, so.
I agree. We're just, like you said, waiting for
I-
rates to come back, right? And then we'll,
Well,
Further
as
discussion
of
or
right
what?
now, as the preliminary budget sits, it's in there.
You already have it set in there?
Yeah, it's gotta come out if it's, I mean, I set it up in there. I just set it in there in the preliminary.
Yep.
So I didn't know where we were gonna be at.
Right.
I figured that was an easy way to pull money out, so.
Anything earth shattering in it or different or?
Huh?
Anything earth shattering as far as what you found? Insurance wise?
I don't have the rates yet.
He won't have it till this week, hopefully.
Oh.
He's got it.
I got a spreadsheet today from them that I have to
Oh, I
put,
remember you saying.
yeah, anybody that's on our insurance, I have to put their, because our rates are age-based, since we're individual,
Okay, makes sense.
so, like, the younger you are, the cheaper it is. So,
So we can't, because we've already approved of the agenda for tonight. Can we put it on for next meeting or can we decide tonight to do that or what's?
well, you would have to amend my contract, so you'd have to put it on the agenda for a different night.
Does anybody want to do that? So we can discuss it more?
Well, I think it should be put on the agenda for next time.
Do we have a second?
I mean, if we don't do it, we ain't gonna do it.
Second it? Okay. All in favor?
I,
Who made the motion?
I did.
Brandy seconded it.
Okay. All right,
is it
Darn it.
move that we adjourn?
Brandy,
All right, what?
we got a motion to
Oh, I
adjourn.
second that.
All in favor?
I. Thanks,
hey,
everybody.
Jody, get better quick.
I'm trying. I should be home tomorrow with Lord's help, so.
All right, well, we're praying for you, buddy.
Take care, buddy.
Okay, yeah.
Bye.
I'll fill you in more when I get there.
Sounds good.
I thought I saw you